correspondent Michelle Abad. Michelle?
Hi, John, and to the rest of the panel. Good afternoon. It's the midday break. I know that you've just talked to Lian, and she just described a little bit of the arguments presented from the prosecution. Today, I'll be going into a little bit more of the manifestation given by CLRV representative Gilbert Andresano. As expected by some of the human rights lawyers today, this was really a day of, or really, it was a chance for the prosecution and the victims to rebut the defense, who had the floor the entire day yesterday. So a Filipino lawyer, Gilbert Andres, spoke for the CLRV, or the common legal representative of the victims. And during the course of the hearing, he said that the victims said it was like their loved ones were being murdered all over again. So he began, of course, expectedly speaking for the victims, but he did go into a 10-point rebuttal that was actually quite complimentary for the prosecution. So here he was not only acting as a voice for the victims, but he also really made and took the time to refute the defense's claim that Duterte's policy was not widespread, not systematic, not above ground, and not targeting the poor. He outright used the time to really refute these claims from the defense. And it's also notable, I found it personally notable, that this Attorney Andres, speaking as a Filipino lawyer, opened with the Philippine context. He first noted that everything that comes out of former President Duterte's mouth back then as chief executive of the country, everything that came out of his mouth was policy. And it becomes Filipinos will obey. So he also delved into this legal principle of presumption of regularity, which is a little bit of a technical legal term, that assumes that everything that official forces do is lawful and procedurally sound. So Attorney Andres made several counters to this in some examples that I will list now. So in 2017, there was a document that was shown by the defense as well, the 2017 year-end report of the Duterte administration, which had the statistics on deaths that occurred in police operations. And Attorney Andres said that this implied that, or there was an inference of state-sponsored killings. And deaths are not supposed to occur in official police operations, which makes this questionable, especially in the terms of regularity. He also cited the no less than the Philippine Constitution, which has the guarantee to a right to life. And so there is no presumption of regularity if a person dies in a police operation, an official police operation. And the defense also said that Duterte did not tolerate bad apple police, but his admin at the same time did not prosecute many of the policemen who ended up being the killers that ruled out the orders of the drug war. And he also refuted the claim from the defense that children were not targeted, and he repeated the fact that children were indeed killed and targeted, and this cannot be presumed to be regular, of course. So I heard Lian also made it clear earlier that the CLRV is really meant to be the voice of the victims, but Attorney Andres really took the opportunity to challenge the arguments that Duterte was not responsible. But still, the Attorney Andres still began and ended with the voices of the victim. The re-traumatization of the victims is really happening as we speak. Similarly to Lian, since I have been monitoring the pro and anti groups, I've also been seeing how tired the victims are feeling at this point. You can see it in their faces when they have to when they speak to the media. It's the tiresome is there, and even since I am following the pro Duterte groups, their vlogs have also come into my algorithm, and I've seen that the online harassment that has been targeting the drug war victims and their families. And so, according to Andres, he really ended with the point that confirming the charges against the former president would help reintegrate victims with their communities, where they have been very stigmatized, and that again, this would lead to the light and the truth of justice. John.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm just wondering, the pretrial chamber will decide in about 60 days. What's next for the victims? I mean, they're visibly worn, as you and Lian said, and they have 60 more days to know whether this will pay off in a decision to proceed with trial. What's next for them?
John, even if they are visibly warned, it doesn't actually mean that they're going to stop anytime soon. No? We did ask the same question to the Rise Up for Life and for Rights coalition, which held their regular press conference yesterday. And Attorney Chrissy Conti said that one of the next steps from this point is really the opening of the applications for more victims who want to participate. So, if I'm not mistaken, there are over 500 victims that have applied or are expected to participate in the hearings in the next part. And so once the ICC is set to open these applications again, more victims are starting to realize that they can actually participate in this. Kasi may impression din kasi na kapag namatayan ka ng kaanak sa drug war, hindi ka victim. But then they're seeing that since they have also been affected, since they have also gone through trauma and loss, that they are indeed also indirect victims of this of Duterte's drug war, and they can indeed also still participate. And so those are also among the next steps, that they can also participate in the next parts of the hearing should the confirmation of charges continue.
I have a process question. The victims' counsel, how do they consult with the victims? Are they given like a room inside the ICC? How does it happen, away from the other parties?
To be honest with you, John, I'm not really privy to that sort of information of the exact process of how that happens. But at least if I'm going to speak about my personal observation, the human rights lawyers here, whether they are speaking in the ICC courtroom or whether they are just sitting with the victims in the public gallery, magkakilala naman sila. Yung mga nagsasalita sa courtroom, si Attorney Gilbert Andres at si Attorney Joel Butuyan, ay nakikita naman nila at nakakausap naman nila ang mga biktima na ito, and nakakamusta naman nila ang mga ito. It can be seen from the public point of view, but I'm sure there are also avenues na mas confidential as part of the ICC process.
Earlier, I asked Lian about foreign media interest in covering this historic case. I'd also like to know, are we aware of the foreign media interviewing the victims? I mean, and have we heard back from the victims? What kind of questions do they get from foreign correspondents?
To be honest, John, I have not personally witnessed an interview from the foreign media with the victims, but I do notice that the culture here is really that the foreign correspondents are also relying on the cues of the local Philippine media to really better understand the context and also help with facilitating questions and answers for the victims.
Do you need to talk to any lawyer before you can interview any of the victims, or if you know them well enough, you can just go straight to them and ask for their reactions?
It's more of the latter. And it's also more of how willing they are, There are the two, for example, that we constantly speak to, which is Nanay Leore Pasco, who lost her two sons, or Shira Escudero, who lost her brother Ephraim. They are the ones who really are going out of their way, kahit napagod na sila, willing sila makipag-usap sa media about their experiences and tell their stories again and again. So it's also an individual discretion, but there might be some technicalities, especially pagdating sa mga, say, like, let's call them quote-unquote official victims of the ICC. Kasi alam natin na kaya nga sobrang daming redactions na nangyayari sa proceedings ng ICC kasi they also, as much as possible, want to protect their identities, especially those na hindi kasing tapang na lumaban in public.
So kaya ang pakiramdam ng mga victims, when the hearing resumes, we'll be hearing the closing statement of Kaufman, the defense counsel. I mean, I don't know if they're looking forward to being re-traumatized or ano kayang pakiramdam nila?
I can't speak for them, John, but I feel that maybe yesterday might have been, the worst part of it. Kasi buong araw na kay Attorney Kaufman yung floor. So whatever he might say today is something that they're probably expecting already.
Michelle Abad, correspondent, covering the ICC. Thank you very much. We'll see you again.